All right, everyone, picture this. It's the early 2000s. Quality managers everywhere are wrestling with paper binders thick enough to block out the sun. Auditors are asking for documents that nobody can find. And spreadsheets, they're multiplying faster than kappas at a bad audit. Today, we're taking a journey from that world to the one we live in now. Our guide on this journey is an expert auditor from World Quality Systems who's been doing it for nearly 30 years, Mr. Brian Powers. We're talking about the past, the present, and the future of quality and auditing. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on. Talk to me about your path into quality auditing. How did you get into it?
Well, in the late 90s, I was working for a health food company, and a health food company had a industry standard called an organic certification, and I was part of a larger team effort to get that done.
Okay.
My role was to do job descriptions, work instructions, quality manual, and the procedures, some of the hierarchy of the documentation triangle. And as sick as it sounds, I enjoyed doing it. My sister actually married a gentleman that was a consultant for the environmental industry.
Okay.
And he started kind of whispering in my ear about if you enjoy structure and standards and creating work instructions that people have to follow, then ISO is the perfect world for you. And so it took a couple more years for me to actually make that transition from the company or the industry that I was in into the ISO standards industry. And so I started working for a larger consulting company and really learned and just soaked in everything that I possibly could. They sent me on some jobs early on to help companies become ISO certified, and I implemented a number of companies and got them certified.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it. And at the same time, I knew that I wanted to be in business for myself as well. And so through networking and what have you, I was able to land a few of my own jobs. And so I quit the larger consulting company and just turned around and I contracted for the registrar side of their business.
Gotcha.
And that's where I started doing more of the auditing side of things.
Gotcha.
And been doing that for about 25 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's quite a long time. What did quality look like when you first stepped into the quality world?
A lot of binders, you know, and it was both good and bad. You would step into an audit and they would lay down some books for you or some binders and tell you, okay, there's the quality manual, there's the procedures, and there's the work instructions. And then we would have a form binder, you know, and that was kind of their master list of documents. You know, you would just start working through it, making sure that, you know, all the quality manual meets the requirements in the standard, and then the procedures. You know, and sometimes you ended up proofreading instead of auditing. When I started auditing, the 1994 standard was still in effect. And then when the 2000 standard revision came around, that was revolutionary because a lot of the procedure requirements disappeared.
Okay.
But it took a while to take, you know, like effect for companies to even grasp the concept.
Sure.
And make the change.
Right.
So I would say probably for the next 10 years, I still dealt with binder type systems.
Okay.
And usually when they gave you the binders, you would see, you know, some dust, you know, on them, because if there's dust on it, then you know it's not being used. And so, you know, early on, I knew that software was going to be the answer to these 4 or 5 binders that I would have placed in front of me. Every once in a while, I would bump into a company that was using a quality management software, and I thought that was the best thing, you know, since sliced bread.
Yeah.
It was very few and far between.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back.
A lot of spreadsheets and Word documents, you know, and even the quality management system itself was, you know, more of a typewritten procedures. Every blue moon, you know, company that I would audit, I saw some flow charting procedures, and I thought that was, you know, that was the next step. That was the best practice. But not everyone was doing it because, you know, pictures and diagrams are so much easier to follow for most folks.
Absolutely.
And it kind of forces you to describe things in the order in which it occurs. Instead of typewritten, you know, procedures that sometimes jump around from subject to subject.
Yeah.
And don't follow a logical order. So now when I go to a company as a consultant and I'm trying to help them out, I try to assess what is this company, what's their competency, what's their skill sets, do they even have flow charting software or anything like that, and I try to make that assessment and determine, okay, can we go to that next level, or are they still babies and we need to start with some typewritten text?
Right.
Every company goes through that, that evolution, of being a baby, toddler, teenager, and sometimes their QMS is a good indicator of their maturity level. Every once in a while, I still come across the binders and their system hasn't been revised in years. And that kind of tells me, I'm sure they're making quality product, which is a very good thing, but many of the other principles are fallen.
The continuous improvement has been applied to product, but perhaps not the system itself. Management system itself.
Well, in the data analysis, the biggest weakness in companies that I go to is the data analysis. Most companies are great at collecting data, but they're horrible at processing the data and then presenting the data in a way that will help their managers make better decisions, or even top management understand. So in the early days of auditing, again, not much use of software, even though there was software available in the early 2000s. Most companies just weren't doing it because it's stuck on a piece of paper, it's handwritten, or it's even in an Excel spreadsheet. And that's one of my pet peeves, is collecting information and then doing nothing with it. It's just a waste of time if you're not going to do anything with the data.
Yeah, collecting for the sake of collecting is pointless.
And not every data has, maybe value, but you do have to at least try to analyze it and then figure out, okay, where is the most valuable data? So
it's how you create value.
Right, exactly.
So moving a bit now to the present day, here we are. Would you say ISO compliance is making companies better, or just better at looking compliant?
I think, I don't think there's any fakeness about it anymore. Maybe because the standards are changing and evolving too. It seems like people are buying into the idea of continuous improvement and, I guess the values in making sure that you have procedures, structure. Structure is good. Most people do very well with structure. And I think also, with the standard changing and not having as many procedural requirements, many of the quality manuals that I've seen now, went from 4-inch binders down to maybe, half-inch binder.
When did you start seeing digital systems become more, not necessarily essential, but more common in audits?
I would say probably like 2015-ish. Yeah, maybe 10 years ago. I've come across more and more in the last 10 years, and it's totally welcome. I mean, that is excellent, because many times I'll get called because a company lost their quality manager. And if that person leaves, somebody else has to step in, and they don't know where certain files are at. If they had a software system, searchable files, there's structure, there's action items, there's to-dos. These things just keep going no matter who's in charge. And so that was one of the best benefits of the software that I've started seeing more and more.
For sure. That sounds like a huge turning point. The amount of time that's available, capacity of quality teams. I'm sure that changes based on whether they're in a paper system, using spreadsheets, in software.
Well, in so many companies, although 2015 introduced risk, and every company does risk assessments,
whether they know it or not.
That's where software helps.
Absolutely.
QT9 or many other software systems, it just keeps rolling.
Might need to create a new login, but other than that,
yeah,
everything's still there. It's all in one spot. How have auditors themselves or your behaviors changed since companies have moved to more digital systems? Is it time spent? Do you approach things differently?
I would say overall, it's probably sped up the audit process. Certainly, retrieval of the records is a lot faster now, whether it's a QMS or an ERP, MRP type system. During audits, we do traceability exercises. And so, we'll randomly pick a couple of orders or jobs. And the faster our clients can retrieve those records, obviously, the quicker we can get our audit report done. So yeah, that's definitely been a plus.
What is one thing that you see currently that is technically compliant but practically dangerous for a company to be doing?
Famous phrase for ISO is say what you do and do what you say. There is the system, the process forces you to be compliant and not dangerous.
Yeah.
Whether it's an auditor or a company, you're constantly going through that triangle to make sure that you're compliant with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but that continuous improvement, that effective, and making sure that everything is checkboxed forces you to produce a good product and satisfy customers.
Describe the most common silent failure that companies don't catch until it's too late.
I would have to go back to the analysis of data. I think that portion of the ISO standard and all the ISO standards gets overlooked. Again, companies are great at collecting data, horrible at processing and analyzing it.
Yeah. So let's have some fun and look ahead a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Predict the role of AI in quality.
Well, I think that, AI will help process the data. I certainly think that's, one benefit. I also think that, if AI is as good as it says it's going to be, it might help present the data in a way that will help upper management, middle management, and even frontline employees. One company the other day told me that they started allowing their frontline employees to carry their phones, and they were able to quickly search on proper processes or procedures to handle certain non-conforming product.
Okay. Interesting.
Other technology, the use of QR codes and making information available, basically at their fingertips so that people can make better decisions. And I think that's what it really comes down to. And I hope AI can maybe speed that up. If you can eliminate those mistakes by making sure that information is available at, employees' fingertips, they can ask their phone for help.
It's a lot easier than going to someone.
Yeah, raising your hand, hey, supervisor, come over here. Meanwhile, they're under the stress of trying to make sure that product's produced and all that good stuff. So that's definitely gonna, help. And that's just a little microcosm of it, But how, middle management and upper management uses AI it'll be interesting. It'll be a new frontier.
One term that I've heard come up a lot recently is continuous auditing. What is continuous auditing?
Yeah. Maybe this is something that AI is going to help out with. If the software knows what the requirements are and the input from the user is able to, match up with what the requirements are, whether it's corrective actions, CAPAs need to be done within 30 days, the software should know whether or not that's being done. Seems like to me that the QMS software should be able to audit itself, or at least maybe on a somewhat of a limited level. There should be ways to monitor performance, and that is to some degree auditing, and knowing how well people are doing, whether or not they're following procedure, and things like that. Where it might be challenging is outside inputs. If there's any statutory or regulatory requirements, how does that get injected into the audit?
Yeah.
Customer requirements that might be buried in terms and conditions. I go to some food packaging companies that they do audits almost every day, of certain segments of the business, and they're constantly monitoring those activities. So I think there is an opportunity for, companies that use software to develop the software to audit itself and see, who's doing what and performing well or not, spitting out some sort of report to say, that certain departments or processes are performing at this efficiency level.
How ubiquitous is it that you see companies running both an EQMS solution and an ERP solution in software?
I probably see more the ERP, MRP systems, and then I usually encourage them, hey, maybe this software has a QMS add-on. If I could throw a percentage out, I mean, almost every company I go to now is running some sort of ERP, but the QMS, I would say maybe 20% of the time.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing that I've been hearing a lot about, predictive quality. What are your thoughts on predictive quality?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I think that's where the data analysis is going to feed back into that. And ultimately, that's where the benefit of software is. And that's where the predictive side of quality could come into play.
Yeah.
Again, if the right software is used and the right analytics, you might be able to find some trends, some little quirks, something in the data that could tell you, okay, something's going on here.
How has top management, that level C-suite, how has their perception and valuation of quality and quality management changed since you first started auditing, if at all?
Yeah, I think it's gotten a lot better. I definitely think they're on board. Do I go to companies sometimes and, there's not a single upper management that wants to be available for me? Sure. It still happens. I think it's mostly fear, nervousness, things like that, to just deal with an auditor. But I think that the health of the quality system is a direct reflection on upper management. I would definitely say that in recent years, a lot of companies are on board with it. And they're not just pencil whipping the paperwork and just trying to get their certification.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it's definitely a shift.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
That's definitely good to hear. How have global regulations adapted? I mean, obviously, we've got a lot coming this year with the 9001 revision expected out later this year. Aerospace is being revised. You got QMSR and life sciences coming. Do you see that these standards and regulations are adapting well and evolving with the use of new tools, digital tools, things like that?
I think so. Yeah, ISO is really big in Europe. And so there's many times a big influence over there, and it affects us here. I know, many of the changes with the standard are going to be related to climate change and the environment, and fortunately or unfortunately, sometimes that can be controversial. I think that that they're trying to stay, relevant with some of the changes, at least, and these are all just rumors, I haven't confirmed. The climate change, and then I believe the separation of risk and opportunity. And I think they're going to expand on risk a little bit more, which is great.
Yeah.
Add a little bit more definition to it. And the ISO standard needs to keep evolving and changing.
Yep.
I'm glad they didn't make, too many drastic changes. I think with the way the economy is and just the way the standards change, the way it's written from 2015, I don't want to say it's perfect, but it's pretty close,
Yeah.
If they're just redefining things or clarifying things at this point, that is great.
That's not a bad thing.
Right.
Not a bad thing.
Exactly.
If quality management has a North Star metric, what would that be? Obviously, it can be very different depending on industry, depending on company, but just more generally speaking, very, very meta top level.
Well, I mean, obviously 0 defects would be, your North Star metric, but 0 defects alone may not tell you exactly what's going on. You could still be running out of money as a company.
Yeah.
And making 0 defects. So I think if a company has some good goals and objectives and they're meeting all of them, that would probably be their North Star, and you're profitable. So yeah, I think ultimately that would probably be it.
It's a good answer. It's a good answer. Well, Brian, thank you very much for taking us on this journey from early chaos to future innovation. You can find Brian's information in the show notes. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the QT9 QCast. And until next time, stay curious, stay compliant, and keep raising the bar.